for our first YouTube episode of Talking While Black. You know it's from KCEP, R 88.1. I am Derek Washington, and it is hot in Vegas. It's like fourth hour of a black funeral hot. I'm like Medea extra hot. It is so hot. How hot is it? It's so hot I got the hottest guest in town, Congressman Dennis Kucinich. Hello, sir.
Too hot, hot damn, got the police and the fireman.
What? You had all that in you. So let's just start right off the bat. The reason that we have the congressman here is he is the national campaign manager for
Robert F. Kennedy for president.
Robert F.
Kennedy Jr. for president.
For president. And you have been in the game quite a while.
Yeah.
Can you give us a little bit of your background? You don't have to be too specific because you know what? Google is your best friend.
Maybe. But anyhow, yeah, I started my career, first campaign I was ever involved in was 1966. The first time I ran for office was 1967, candidate for Cleveland City Council. I have had about 42 elections, and I've won 32. So I've been doing this a while. That's counting primaries in general. So I chose a career in public service. You gotta be elected to serve. Well, you can serve in other ways without being elected.
When we were talking earlier, we were driving through town and we were talking about the importance of positions. And you had said that you felt that city council was a very important position. And you want to expand on that?
Yeah, I served 4 terms in the Cleveland City Council. And council is the office that is closest to the people. You get elected to council by going door to door. I mean, I went door to door. Council campaigns, state, senate, congressional campaigns. But council is where people have a direct link with the city government. People say, well, you can't fight city hall. Yes, you can. But you have to know what city hall is. And you also have to have individuals who understand how the system works. And that council level is just so important. So that's how I learned. I learned about politics and government from actually going to the people door to door, knocking on doors, and people will tell you what they care about. And that kind of wisdom at the street level is what's needed in order for those who would aspire to office and those who hold office to be in touch with the practical aspirations of people. And that's how I did it, by going door to door. And as a councilman, that's how I learned about government. And it was probably the best education. And had I not had that experience, I don't think that I could have been effective as a state senator or congressman, as a city or mayor for that matter. I mean, as mayor of Cleveland, I was in tune with what people were concerned about because I started at the city council.
Right. So you've been doing this for a minute. What do you think is the biggest #1 difference between running for office and when you first ran to now? Well, let's say this. What is the #1 good difference and what is the #1 bad difference?
Well, social media changed everything in politics. It accentuated divisions. There's a lot more polarization than there ever was. In my campaigns nationally, I've run for president twice, but I found an underlying unity in America. There are things that bind us as Americans, the values about freedom, about country, about love of it. And social media I call it anti-social media, it actually has emphasized divisions. And the Democratic Party, unfortunately, picked up on it and capitalized on emphasizing the differences that people have. And actually, I think that's the wrong approach. I think that I see the world as one. I see the world as an undivided whole. That we're interconnected, we're interdependent. If I can pick up a cell phone, I can call 10,000 miles away. What does that tell you? I mean, if I get on a plane, from Harry Airport and I fly anywhere in the world, that tells you how the world's connected. And we're connected. Human genome theory says we're 99.9% made of the same thing. But by emphasizing our differences, our politics has undermined, I think, the unity that we need to connect with each other on a much deeper level. It's a spiritual thing.
Okay, I need to push back a little on that because when we say that we're 99% the same, is that just another way of saying, I don't see color, I don't see race, I don't see gender, and therefore the people don't feel, people are different. And I think that right now people don't know if it's okay to be different. So I understand what you're saying. Under the surface, we're all the same, but under the culture, we're not. So I guess what I'm asking you is, where are we at as a country? What happened?
Yeah, you raised an interesting point, Derek, and if you believe that there is, I mean, it's a spiritual fact. We can't, if you believe in God, if you believe there's some spiritual force out there, there is this compact, this coherence and cohesion that connects all of us in spirit. And to try to say, well, this group or that group is outside the grace of God is wrong. It's fundamentally wrong. It's actually, I think, I think what it defines is a separation from God, because if God resides in you, God resides in me too. And if I think you're outside that grace of God, then I'm separating myself from the God that's within you.
Now, when you say God, do you mean the Christian God, or do you mean
I mean God in the
overarching?
generic sense, the
Spiritual.
right, in the spiritual sense. Not that I'm not promoting. I don't promote a certain religion. I think that all matters of belief, all paths, and even the paths of non-belief are actually valid. People can believe, they don't have to believe, but to go underneath that, I believe that when we connect with those things that are deep within us, that's our path to unity. For example, in the Hindu religion, there's a sense of, there's concepts called Jnana, Tapasya, and Shakti. We're the energy of the stars, and the stars become us. There's this interplay between heaven and earth, literally. And when we find, when we don't believe in that anymore, and we're just isolated, and we don't see the oneness, connection that we have to all humanity, I think that's what diminishes us.
But so recently, I think one of the main things that divides and diminishes us is politics. Do you ever have a moment where you're sort of embarrassed to be involved in politics? And I don't mean you personally, but just as a field.
Well, I recognize it as an endeavor which has the highest potential and simultaneously plumbs the lowest depths. So we could either have our feet, our face in the mud, or we can look at the stars, and as the poet Browning once wrote, a man's reach or a woman's reach should exceed his or her grasp, or what is a heaven for. We have to aspire to things. Now, yeah, I chose a career in politics. Did I know there were people in politics who were in it for themselves? Of course. I don't know that that's different in a lot of other endeavors in human experience. And the other thing is, if you look at going back thousands of years in human experience, there's not too many things new under the sun. This has all been, all of these things that are going on right now.
Pliny the Elder and all that.
Okay? The question is, have we evolved? Are we still stuck in the conflict? Or do we see some reason to vault over that conflict, recognize that we're all in this together, and try to find a way to help each other, to lift each other up?
So, when I was a little kid, we were taught, if you could be president, I'm black, so that wasn't really a thing, but Barack. Anyway, so
you were always black and I was always little.
So, I'm going to quote, pop philosopher, Chrissy Hynde. We are all of us in the gutter, some of us looking at the stars, which brings me to Congress.
I'll go with that.
So, when you sit on the floor in Congress and there's a person like Marjorie Taylor Greene holding up peenie pics of Hunter Biden, do you just sort of go, or do you get mad, or what's your feeling at that moment when you see the greatest institution, I would say one of the top 10 institutions in the history of the world, being defiled by having Hunter Biden's weenie held up by an elected member of Congress?
Well, I mean, that's not anything I would have done.
Well, hopefully.
But here's the thing. The First Amendment, roll it now, the First Amendment provides for freedom of speech, and the Congress of the United States in the Constitution actually, that no one can really question a member of Congress. It's called the Speech and Debate Clause. Members of Congress say anything they want on the floor of the House.
But there's a difference between that and revenge porn.
Constitution. Now, do I like what is censored? Would I go along with the pictures that were shown? I actually saw that. I thought, I don't think so, but.
It's not that good.
But look, it's like, that's not why I went. But you have to understand that we're at a time right now where free speech is being censored. And I'm opposed to any kind of censorship of free speech.
I am too. The reason.
But a congressperson.
Right. So decorum. What happens to decorum? And we can call it free speech, but what happens to just basic manners, basic civility, basic behaving like gentlemen and gentle ladies? If you have to refer to a person as the gentle lady from Georgia, shouldn't the gentle lady act like a lady? A gentle lady, because lady sounds misogynistic and yeah. But I mean, do you get me?
Is that sexist?
Yeah, I think it is if you say lady.
Yeah,
But if you say gentle lady, then you even the playing field. Yeah.
So again, if the chair of that committee had said the gentle lady is out of order, she would have had to desist, okay?
And the chair did not.
No, the chair did, but that's a discretion of the chair. See, look, if you look at the history of the United States, there's always been moments where members of Congress have gone, in a way that was either shocking or inappropriate or would offend some people's sensibilities. In some ways, it happens every day. It is possible, I mean, if that was done on the floor of the House instead of committee, the person could have been called to order, probably would have by the chair. There's a little bit more discretion with the committee. So, again, to go back, I think that it's decorum call for yes, but people have very strong feelings and they express that.
But they used to hold them in a manner.
They're members of Congress and they can say whatever they want. And am I offended sometimes? I'll quote, I think it was, there's a famous quote by a French philosopher. It could have been Voltaire. Don't hold me to that. But he said, it was a letter to a Madame de Fresnoy. He said, "Madam, I may disagree with what you say, but I will defend to my death the right for you to say it."
I absolutely.
And see, and right now, the biggest challenge we have right now, one of the biggest ones, is that there's this debate over free speech. What are the limits of free speech? And I believe, as many of my friends do, that the answer to speech that is repugnant is more free speech, not less. And I sure don't want Google, I don't want Facebook, I don't want internet platform cooperating with the government. And that's happening right now, where they'll censor me because the government says, because I don't like.
When does that become, so my history in politics, when I was a little kid, the Nazis had marched in Skokie. And I knew what a Nazi was because I read the Rising Fall of the Third Reich in third grade. I don't know why. So I knew what a Nazi was. And the ACLU came in and defended them. And I thought that was the coolest thing because I thought at that time that you should be able to say whatever you feel like saying. So I do agree with you. What I'm talking about isn't censoring. It's about a little bit of self-respect. And I just find that the members of Congress, more so than the Senate, because the Senate just sort of sits there and acts like they're not involved. But it seems to me that decorum is what we're missing. Decency, civility. And it's not about free speech. It's about self-respect and self-control. So I agree with you. I don't need to. So for instance, if I say anything bad about Elon on Twitter, my account gets frozen for 24 hours. if I see the N word, nothing happens. So I think it ought to be all equal, and it's not.
You raise a point. You know, if you look at the song America the Beautiful, one of the lines of it is confirm thy goal in self-control, thy liberty and law. And there is something to that. I mean, I'm not going to, there is no argument on the issue of decorum. But decorum is like a subset of free speech. You know, Oliver Wendell Holmes, Justice Holmes said, your right to swing your fist and to tip the White House. And there are limits as to how you can go, and those limits cross into, you know, is this an appropriate expression? So I'm not, yeah, so, look, it's all good.
So let's talk a little bit about policy, because you have a bunch of stuff you're doing. What is the main thing as far as policy in the Congress that you personally, what's your main priority? One thing, what one bill, what one subject?
My main priority for pretty much 16 years was not what I thought it would be when I went to Congress. I didn't get elected to Congress until my 5th try. I ran 4 times before.
Real quick, if you're ever thinking about running, most people do not win their first time. And if you give up after the first time, you weren't really in the game.
So if at first you don't succeed,
Run again.
Try.
Go back to the donors.
again.
Try again.
So
Yeah.
I went to Congress from Cleveland, Ohio.
Is that where the lake caught on fire?
The river caught on fire in 1969 because petrochemicals were dumped on the water. And if you know, when you see any kind of fire on water, it's generally because there's some kind of a chemical there, and that's what happened in the Cuyahoga River. Since then, it was cleaned up, and Lake Erie is a place that provides drinking water for tens of millions of people. So I went to Congress thinking that I'd be able to spend all my time, workers' rights, the right to organize, the right to collective bargaining, the right to strike, the right to decent wages and benefits, healthcare for all, jobs for all, on and on and on, a domestic agenda. And what I found out when I got to Congress, our government's about war. And I mean, this is what I found, and it was like, whoa, wait a minute. Why are we bombing Belgrade? And then why did we attack Iraq when they had nothing to do with 9/11? Why did we kill 1 million Iraqis? What's that about? Who licensed us to be the cop of the world?
Halliburton, Blackwater.
Hello, I looked at that, you know, and I got real deep into it. I led the effort, by the way, Derek, against the war in Iraq. And also against the war in Libya and a few other inventions. And what I found out is that this government, which we love our country rather, but the government sometimes operates like a criminal enterprise.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really, that is, look, I come from Cleveland, Ohio, I've lived in the same house, had this house since 1972. It's, strike that, 71 I bought it for $22,500. It's a 1,208 square foot house. I still live in it, okay? In a working class neighborhood. That's what I went to Congress to represent. Just people are trying to make a living and hang in there and have a little nest egg to survive. And so what I found out is this government of ours didn't really care about the people. They take their sons and daughters and send them into a war machine, wave the flag and say, it's all good. No, it's not. We have all too often sent our brave men and women into battles they should have never been asked to fight. Their service was honorable, but the people who sent them, anything but that.
Vietnam and Iraq.
Oh, just go on and on, okay? So what I found out when I got to Congress is that this, you know, the people that are promoting war all the time, we're in Ukraine right now, and we're fighting with the Russians there in a proxy war to the last Ukraine, the flower of America, of the Ukrainian men and women, their youth is just being trashed on a battlefield. And we're continuing to escalate as though we're begging for World War III.
Question, have we had so many, okay, so the last good war was World War II. Have we had so many bad wars? I personally think that Ukraine is worth fighting for because I think of the Sudetenland. Having said that, have we fought so many bad wars? Have we fought so many Kissinger-type events that now that we don't have the moral balance to say this war is something we really should be fighting for? Like, have we lost that moral high ground?
Yeah, absolutely, no question about it. And as a result, we don't find ways of trying to avoid conflict. We go into them, and other people often end up paying a price. Now, in this case, the American people are already in it to about $140 billion. All of these concerns we have about housing in this country, about education, about retirement security, questions that are unanswered, and we feel free to pour money into a war when we could have settled it with an agreement. We nullified an agreement that was on the table called the Minsk Accords that would have settled it, that would have stopped Ukraine from the Ukrainian people from being the victims of this. And, you know, as far as I'm concerned, the people in the Biden White House who prosecuted this ought to go to jail. And that's my personal opinion, because they had every ability to be able to avoid a war, and they chose war over peace. And they knew better.
So we obviously have to have a part two, because I so disagree with that.
So let's do
But
it.
respectfully,
I'll be back.
yeah, we're gonna talk about Ukraine and the rest of the things later. But in the meantime, as a wise woman, Sophia Petrillo once said, "Beat it, you 50-year-old mattress." We're out. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Derek.